soul touching me so much to bring our dreams into this reality. We set each other free.
Welcome, everybody, to the Eagle's Nest podcast. That's right, we got a little upgrade on our system here. Again, we're up on 1080p. So, and during the breaks and at the start and everything, we're going to have double screen just because we can. Have a different angle. A lot of see me in the face. You don't get to see it on the camera that we normally use. So, just change up a little bit. Today is, what is today? It's been a long day. June 15th. We are a special report. Normally we're on a Sunday from here at the Eagles Nest podcast at a different time, date, and time day of the week. We're on a Wednesday. We're doing a special report this evening with my friend Brad Olsen. We're going to have an update on Antarctica. The man's been there in person, one of the few people I know that's been there in person. And yeah, we're gonna get into it. Just get into a bunch of weird stuff this evening. He's been a busy guy, been all over the circuit. He was on Jimmy last night on Fade to Black, about to be at Disclosure Fest this weekend, and yeah, just wanted to have him on here. It's I met the man back in 2019ish at Shasta at a small little get together we had there, a small little conference we had there at a ski resort. Got snowed on, and it was a crazy conference, but yeah, kept up with him over the years, and glad we can connect, and can't wait to have him on here. Just a little like upcoming guests. Let's see, I got Ruben Langdon coming up. He actually, I just got word today from him about 2 hours ago. He's going to push back his interview. He is going to be with us, but he just got done doing a long trip and interviewing a long road trip, interviewing a bunch of people for his show. He has to get caught up on a bunch of editing, so he asked if we could push it back a little bit. And of course, we're going to work around his schedule. My good friend Ruben Langdon will be with us. Stay tuned for Sunday. We're still going to have a show. Not sure who we're going to have on, but it's gonna be interesting. I got a few people brewing, so. I guarantee it's going to be an interesting guest. I'm not sure. I probably won't let anyone know till Sunday night. Just be a surprise guest. How about that? This coming Sunday, surprise guest. Ruben Langdon Pushback. The following week, we got Sev Talk. She's a MUFON director. She's also the MC and head for the MUFON Symposium coming up in Denver next month. And I think that starts on July 8th, 9th, and 10th. Here in Denver. So she's going to be on the following Sunday talking about her experiences with MUFON, her personal experiences with Contact, and also talking about the MUFON Symposium coming up, where our friend Dave Scott's going to be there too. So go check that out if you haven't. But Sev Talk will be with us, and not this coming Sunday, but the following Sunday. And let's see, we got Micah Hanks, we got Charles Pate from Florida. He runs a ketamine treatment facility in Florida. That's got to be an interesting conversation. Yeah, and yeah, I'm steadily booking for more shows of my own. I'm gonna be with Jess at the end of this month. I'm gonna be on my friend's first episode of his podcast that he's opening up, coming up in July, and we'll have all those dates updated on the website soon. By the way, we just been working on the website lately. Got a few new items. My daughter, my stepdaughter Alyssa's art. She's putting it to stickers and on hoodies and everything. She's an amazing artist. If any of you know seen her art, go check it out over the store page over at sacredjourneyswithin.com. Let me see. Throw that up there. There's the website over at sacredjourneyswithin.com. Check it out over at the store. Also, my first book is sold out in our store. Best to order from Amazon right now. I don't have any more copies on hand right now. I have copies of the second book, Find Your Inner Guru. You can order from the website over there at Sacred Journeys Within at the store, or you can go over to Amazon.com, and a few other bookstores here in Southern Colorado is carrying my book. Blessings to them. But yeah, let's see what else is going on. Yeah, it's hot here in Colorado. I had the strawberry moon last night. That was amazing. And yeah, not much else going on. There's a lot going on being dad. Hawk's growing up crazy, eating all the time. He just passed his 5 month mark a few days ago on the 11th. So yeah, it's just an amazing time, and getting ready to relocate our church and podcast base, and the Eagles Nest about to move to a different state. We don't know where we're going to land at yet, but we're definitely yeah, the house and the homestead and 5 acres here in Colorado is all being sold. So we don't know where we're going yet. It's a pretty interesting time. The first time we've ever not known where we're going to go. Usually it's the other way around. Usually you find a place to go and sell your house, or get rid of the place you live in, not before you find a place to live. But yeah, it's all working out that way. So that's just the way the universe works, I guess. Thanks everyone joining the chat room. And without further ado, we're going to get Brad Olsen in here. Let me get this face to face. See everybody. Take that one off real quick and bring my good friend Brad Olsen into the Eagles Nest podcast. Welcome, brother.
Hey, Drew. Thanks for having me on the Eagles Nest. It's good to be flying high with you up here.
Yeah, good to have you, man. It's been a while since we connected. I'm glad this all finally come together.
Yeah, sure am. I love it out in Colorado. You live in a cool state. My dad lives out there.
Yeah, I love it. The place where we're at right now is windy, and I guess that's really it's just too much wind. We're out here in the mesas in the high desert, and there's not a whole lot of trees, so I guess that's why we're relocating. And Colorado, once we get rid of this place, we're trying to use the extra income from selling this property for maybe some more property. Look at North Carolina. I think it seems like a lot of people looking towards North Carolina and stuff like that. But who knows? Who knows? The Big Island's on the list too. So there's a place on the Big Island we're looking at. It's all interesting times though, for sure.
Yeah.
Man, a lot has happened with you since the last time I saw you, man. Like, you're now a single man, and man, just been really spreading your wings out and traveling a lot and really getting out there, bro. You've been busy here lately as of much.
Yeah, that's what I like to do. I like to get out there and travel the world. Plus, I'm getting a lot of opportunities to speak at conferences, and that's what I really love to do. And in support and promotion of my Esoteric Series of books, and doing interviews and talking about some of the contents of the book. This is what really matters in the world today. This is what is going on, and there's only so many hours in a day to read as much as I do and review information. And of course, haven't watched mainstream media in years, almost a half decade now, and what a waste of time that was. But being able to see it from the outside looking in, and how it has been such a device for mind control and swaying public opinion, it's part of what I do is by traveling and getting into different locations gives me a very unique perspective. I'm very grateful for the opportunities in life I've been able to live. And even though I consider Earth to be a prison planet, there is a way to escape. And that's what I like to come on shows like yours, Drew, and drop some truth bombs on everybody.
Yeah, we love to hear them. Like I was saying, you're one of the few people that I know personally, and you're one of the few people that I know of just in general that's been to Antarctica. We're gonna get into that in just a moment. But man, it's crazy times right now. We had the UFO Congress hearing, first one in over 50 years.
What a joke.
It didn't get into anything in particular, but I believe it touched a large part of the American public, and awoken a lot of people up to it. There's definitely a lot of people, especially in our UFO community. It was a letdown, but there was definitely a lot of things that found interesting in it, especially if I was looking from a perspective of the general public. Man, but just the videos and everything coming out of the times that we're in, it's just I see a lot of shift. I see a lot of shift in structure coming up. I see a lot of shift in governmental structure coming up, world structure, and just the whole world in general, and people's viewpoints are going to be shifted so much over the next year, 2 years, I believe. What's your
Oh
thoughts
yeah,
on what are your thoughts on what's going on right now? Like,
this is it. It's the big shift. You're absolutely right. We're in
yeah,
the beginning salvos of the Great Awakening, the biggest changes that the human kind has ever experienced. I would say at least since the ancient Greek philosophers or times of Egyptian high culture. This is it. This is one of the most momentous periods in human consciousness in recorded history. So it's wonderful to be a part of it, to see it, to live it, and to go to conferences. I'm always in a process of learning myself, and to be able to accumulate this kind of knowledge with the very people who are part of the alternative thought movement. And you're my sixth interview in a little less than 48 hours. So, man, I'm on the circuit. I was on Patriot Underground yesterday, E-Talk, and Jimmy Church, Fade to Black. And this morning we pre-recorded for Ryan Gable and The Secret Teachings, which is going to debut after Clyde Lewis tonight. And then another one 48 hours ago. I mean, I'm just jamming. And I'm heading down to Disclosure Fest, speaking on a live stage with no props for the first time. So I really like this challenge of doing a TED Talk style. And here's a good one for you, Drew. Just on my bike ride today, I was telling you the setup. Just got asked and confirmed to be on the first stop of the Truth. Gosh, golly gee. Forgot the name of it. Truth Talk Tour, right? Truth.net.
I think, yeah, that's sounds about right.
Yeah. And got Carrie Cassidy on, and hopefully Leo Zagami is going to be on the San Diego stop. And they're going all the way across country. Michael Jaco will be in Florida, like 40 some city tour. And
amazing.
So I'll be doing that on June 24th in Thousand Oaks, California. So I'm getting ready to spend about a week and a half down in Southern California doing that travel thing again. And a special little renegade stop I might make to investigate something very unusual and paranormal. Not sure if I want to talk about it publicly yet.
Man, we can't wait to hear about it eventually, but whatever it is, because man, you got some interesting content to deliver, man. Well, let's get into this Antarctica thing. I have been I'm not too familiar with your books, just to be clear, but I did just synchronicities. I love synchronicities. How they always tell me, I'm having the right guest on. I just randomly picked a documentary on Amazon Prime or one of them the other day on UFOs, and they just started talking about Antarctica and all the bases down there and all this stuff. And yeah, man, I'm so excited about hearing about this. Like, what do you have to unpack to us about what's happening in our Antarctica?
You mean current events, or want to hear a little bit about my experience down there, or where do you want to go with this?
Well, whatever you want to unpack, I'd love to hear about your personal experience, what you saw down there and what you experienced yourself. And a little history about Nazis and all their stuff.
The whole kit and caboodle. Yeah, we'll get into it. Sure, happy to talk about it.
Let's unwrap this present.
All right. So I went down there 3.5 years ago to the Palmer Peninsula region of West Antarctica. I'll just try to graphically describe some geography for you. I'll have to let you know that I am not a flat earther, never have been, and think it's ridiculous because I've been there. Okay. I've seen it with my own eyes. I could even pull up my cell phone and show you pictures. There is no such thing as an ice wall. It's a fantasy. And so let's just not go that way, because I can tell you that right now they are in the throes of winter solstice on Tuesday, just as we are up in Alaska and above the Arctic Circle. So it's very much a spherical planet. And where I went is a very rocky peninsula called the northern tip of the Palmer Peninsula. And it's gorgeous. There's just glaciers coming out of the mountains. And it reminded me of the Maroon Bells in Colorado, just sheer granite cliffs with whales swimming under our boat and penguins that you could go right up to. One of the great surprises was how perfectly unafraid of people the animals were. They were about as curious in us as we were with them. And so that was one of the fascinations, to be down in this frozen planet world where right now during winter solstice there's only 1,000 human beings on the entire continent, the 5th largest continent on Earth. And keep in mind, Drew, that we live on an ocean planet. It is 71% covered in oceans. The more correct term is not the land masses, but the ocean masses. So the arable land on Earth is really only about 6% of the Earth's surface, where most of the humans live. Down there in Antarctica, nobody was there until modern technology allowed them to stay there. And a friend of mine, Eric Hecker, he had spent 1 year and 1 day there. And we were both speakers at a conference in Vegas last year and instantly became friends, sharing notes, seeing things on some of his maps, including one of the pyramid fields, not too far from McMurdo. It even says pyramid on the map. So there's great mysteries down there. And as a researcher in this field who has a penchant and way of traveling the world, I've now been to all 7 continents, capping it off with Antarctica 3.5 years ago, going down there specifically to look into all the things that we've heard about. And that ranges the spectrum from giant mothership craft under the ice. And apparently there are 3 that have been known about since the 70s that the intelligence agencies calls the Nina, Pinta, and Santa Maria after Columbus's first 3 ships. And I think I've identified one of them, and it happens to be in the New Schwabenland area of Antarctica, and could very well be why the Nazis chose that area, because they were very interested in anything occult or extraterrestrial. They had their own craft that came down in the Bavarian region of the Black Forest in 1933. And Mussolini turned over to the German engineers a much better preserved downcraft in Lombardy region of Italy to the Third Reich scientists in the late 1930s. So they had been developing this technology for almost 100 years. Okay. So anything that could tip them off into learning more about this would have been a very high priority of the Reich. And
So
indeed, they spent quite a bit of resources to send down the New Schwabenland team to claim the land and set up a base there.
So their exploration in Antarctica was after they have down from other instances of downcraft. This is after they went to Antarctica after they already had downcraft.
By at least 5 years, yeah.
By at least 5 years. So the crafts that they I hear lots of stories on reverse engineering, and they had some circular crafts that they were working to defy gravity and stuff like that. Was that reverse engineered from ones that they found in Italy, or ones that they are and around the area, or was that ones that found back engineered from craft that was in Antarctica, or do we know?
Okay, so the timeline would be 33 was Black Forest. Late 30s was the Lombardy, Italy one. And then the New Schwabenland expedition was 38, 39.
And
to give you an idea of the timeline. So the very soonest they could have gotten to the craft that I talk about in my presentation, The Hidden Anomalies of Antarctica, which was revealed in the year 2013 on Google Earth as some kind of a mass excavation of a giant machine, like I would say one of these craft, that in 2013 there was an airstrip, there was a roundabout for snowmobiles. They uncovered a big giant grill, which is about a quarter mile in length.
Wow.
And then has been covered up since with what I describe as a circus tent kind of apparatus over the top, and then the snow is blown over, and you can see about 24 of the poles holding up whatever kind of apparatus was. But the Nazis would have seen that because they had dropped all these markers denoting their territory, and this was well within that area. So here's what's really interesting, Drew. Then I'm poring over maps before my trip to Antarctica because I love maps and get so much more information. Finding the exact GPS address for this 2013 find and a West German base that was a seasonal base that is called Konen, Konhen. So the Germans, well, they never left Antarctica after World War II. And so this gives rise to the whole notion of a Fourth Reich and the base that they had left behind called the New Berlin base, which Admiral Dönitz of the German Admiralty in charge of all the U-boats let it fly in 1943 when he said, "We have built an impregnable fortress for the Fuhrer in the frozen land of ice." Impregnable fortress? Wow. In a land of ice, that could only be Greenland, the Arctic area, or Antarctica.
Yeah. So, man, so this brings up two questions. One, what's the estimated size of the craft you're talking about in Antarctica?
Quarter mile can be seen during that excavation in 2013.
And what do you think? How much is that being seen? Like, do you think that's a quarter of the ship, or?
That's a great question. I would say it's kind of like an iceberg where only about 10% pops through. And what's below, I don't have any way of knowing, but I'll tell you matching data points that came through with the Farsight Institute. Courtney Brown and some of the remote viewers there at the Farsight Institute used the Konen base as a target, and the remote viewers went in there and said it's absolutely massive, that it's certainly machine engineered, crafted by some intelligence, and it was for very, very large individuals to get around that craft. So that is one of the best inferences of what exactly that machine was for. So that's why I say I think it's one of the three major crafts that have been identified since the 70s as Nina Pinta or Santa Maria.
Wow. Yeah, that just occurred to me. You could astral travel inside of it. Yeah. Oh wow. Yeah, amazing. Were you at Contact in the Desert in 2019?
Yeah.
Do you know there was a large mother craft over top of the conference on the third night of the conference?
No, I didn't know that.
Me and my wife saw it. Greer was doing an event out there. He had about 500 people outside the third night of the conference, and me and my wife were there. I wasn't speaking, but I was going around meeting people there. I call 2019 my contact. That was my contact to meet people. But we went back to a B&B outside of Indian Wells and looked back at where the conference was close to, and the ship went over top of us, and it had to be like 10 miles across. It was by far the largest ship I ever saw. I thought
you saw it with the naked eye, or did you have some night vision goggles?
No, we felt it go over top of us because it just stopped all the air moving. There was a small breeze, crickets and everything, and when this thing went over, everything just stopped in dead silence. And we didn't realize what it was until it got over the conference and it started releasing drones out. But we thought it was a bunch of ships.
Damn.
Yeah, it was an amazing time. Yeah, I'm not the only witness of this. It was
third night of the conference. So what was that? Saturday or Sunday night?
Whatever I think Sunday night was the last night, wasn't it? So it'd be Saturday night.
Saturday night. Well, I was playing foosball with Giorgio Tsoukalos and David Hatcher Childress of Ancient Aliens that night. And,
Yeah,
and
good.
we were up till the wee hours in the morning. And my former partner, Emily Infinity, who went to Antarctica with me, we were all playing foosball with some other of our friends that night. But geez, don't remember anybody saying that, but super cool. You got to have that experience.
Yeah, there was it was crazy. But yeah, that's man, getting back to Antarctica, man, that's I definitely believe it, man. I never believed that there were ships that could be that big, come into our space until that. So that doesn't surprise me at all. That doesn't surprise me at all. So what did you see down there with like when you went down there? What did you encounter? I know you had a quite a trip going down there. You had to get on multiple different ships, multiple different modes of transportation to even get there. Can you go into a little bit of how hard it was to even get to Antarctica?
Yeah, sure. Let me give you a description, and then when you formulate your next question, give me a couple minutes because I should have made a quick run to the bathroom before I jumped on this interview. I got to take a leak real bad. But let me just tell you quick. Going down there on a 72-foot sailboat that we got charter. Emily Infinity and I were thinking about going on a cruise ship, but we were weighing the pros and cons, and the sailboat trip, about the same price, gave a much longer trip. So much more bang for the buck, much more ability to get out and explore. Whereas a cruise ship will get down there in 2 days over the Drake Passage, which is very rough, and even 50% of cruise ship people get seasick. But we are about 70% seasick, 4 days getting to the outer islands of the across the Brandford Strait, the South Shetland Islands. First anchorage on King George Island, and we went ashore to a Polish research station, and we happened to be on a Polish vessel renamed the Chief One, but had sailed down from Gdansk, Poland. So 11 Poles on our trip and 3 Americans. And it was great to set anchor, finally set ashore. They were very gracious in allowing us showers, and the one and only time I used the internet and able to send some pictures and let people know that we made it safely. And 2 days at the base, got tours of the penguin colonies and other parts around, and up to a glacier on another hike. It was really great start after puking our guts out on the very rough Drake Passage, which that was 92 hours of total hell. Well, until the very end, after you puke everything up and you can't hold anything down and you haven't died, and the seas got a little calmer once we got close to the South Shetland Islands. First thing we saw were ginormous icebergs broken off from one of the ice shelves and floating. And that's what is usually mistaken by flat earthers as the ice wall. Now, there are giant ice shelves, and they do calve off massive blocks of icebergs, which are flat top. It reminded me of the Merchandise Mart in Chicago, where I grew up, one of the biggest buildings in the world, about 30 stories high and massive, 1 or 2 or 3 city blocks. It's so big, right along the Chicago River. And then we laid anchor and went ashore and continued on. Pretty much every day was a new adventure, a new stop, a new research station. We went to 6 in all. One of them was a museum, which was an old British spy station on the Nazis during World War II. That was really interesting, called Port Lockroy. And then also a visit to the Palmer base, which very few people get to go. But because we were 3 Americans on board, they did allow us to come ashore one day, which was a great treat and honor to see the whole Palmer installation, which is a full research facility. And then the next day after, we would always anchor offshore and sleep on the boat. So we each had a boat in the boat, and Emily was right above me, and our friend Luke Dog, the other American, right across. So we could talk amongst ourselves as they were mostly conversing in Polish. But everybody got along really great. We shared in the chores and also doing duty on deck, watching for icebergs, and then sometimes with long poles poking little growler ice cubes away. Just we wanted to keep the boat as preserved as possible. And you never know with these, they call them growlers, the smaller icebergs. They can sometimes be really big below. So it was pretty hard to push some of the bigger ones away. I mean, it was a trip, Drew. It was like no other kind of travel I've ever been on. So why don't you formulate that question? I will listen, and I'll be right back in about 30 seconds.
Yeah. So man. Yeah, it must have been a crazy trip going down there to the water like that. That's just insane. It's probably having flashbacks of Titanic or being on the Titanic or something. But we're gonna let our friend Brad Olsen check out the restroom real quick. It's one of the great things about having live TV. I can live podcast and everything. You just roll with it. So let's just go to the chat room. Let's see, my wife is in here. Yeah. So yeah, Drew gets sick too. Yeah, that's she's talking about our cruise to the Bahamas a few years ago that I spent the both to and from, really just tore up with tore up with seasickness so much. And let's see, Trev's in the chat room. Hey, Trev. Sam Els from Dallas, Texas in the chat room. Who else? North Alabama Cryptids in the chat room. And yeah, we're just waiting on our friend Brad to get back. And yeah, when he gets back, if he can hear me right now, I wanna backtrack a little bit, and I forgot to ask like the question I ask everybody. You know, what lit your fire? We're gonna find out what. Let's see. Here's Brad coming back in. There's Brad. So I want to backtrack just a tad. Forgot to ask the question I ask everybody on this. To start it off, what lit your fire to be in this, man? Like what was Brad doing before he got involved in hunting down the truth?
Oh, you mean what have I done in my career? Kind of question.
Like what lit your fire? Like what really lit this fire in you to become agent of truth?
Okay, good question. I was growing up in the Midwest and graduated from Illinois State University when I was 22. And while growing up, I was in Boy Scouts and got to travel around the Great Lakes area to see pretty much all there is to see around the Great Lakes and kind of realize, wow, it's a big world out there. So immediately upon graduating college, painted houses. I've always been self-employed and always self-financed all my trips. I went to Europe for the summer of 1988 when I finished college and really opened my eyes and expanded my knowledge and thinking, and realizing I didn't really want to go back to Chicago and just start a career and a family and buy a car and start making payments on everything, but kind of enjoying the whole notion of traveling some more and get my feet wet. And that's what I did. I then came back after that trip, moved to California with my mom and sister and grandfather at the time. Grandfather soon since passed, and my sister has a wife and 2 kids, and she's still out here too. And then I got some good advice on a chairlift in Lake Tahoe while I was skiing one time. And it was a woman that said, hey, you want to travel the world and finance it yourself? You should go to Japan and teach English. And that's exactly what I did. And it was while I was teaching English in Japan, in Kyoto, that I started working on my first book, World Stompers, which is still in print. And a lot of people have read it and used it to formulate and execute their own trip around the world. And so I got that. I did that when I came back in the late 90s. But after teaching English in Japan, self-financed my own trip around the world and had the great opportunity in my late 20s, fulfilled that prophecy of backpacking around the world, which I did. I left the country for 3 years while I was teaching English in Japan, and then just took a boat to, Korea to get a visa, but then China to start my world tour. And I even did a little website. It's a quirky little website still up called stompers.com, which tells the story of that 3-year trip around the world in my, half my lifetime ago now, Drew. I was over there teaching English in Japan and then starting this trip. And in my 30s, early 30s, then I started book publishing. And I've since published quite a few authors. These are later in the last few years, but Leo Lyons-Zagami, and then my Sacred Places series of books. I did 3 or 4 of those because while I was doing my trip around the world, I was following all these sacred places and finding the coolest places, and gave me content to write about.
Is there a website that we can put up for that people can find all your books? Is that over at CC Publishing and all that?
Yeah, that's CCC Publishing for all the books. Stompers.com if you want to hear about this 3-year trip around the world. And also my YouTube channel, which is also interesting because I have narrated 2 of the 3 Beyond Esoteric Series books. I haven't done Beyond Esoteric yet, but you could hear all my audiobooks for free on my YouTube channel, CCC Publishing, as well. And a whole bunch of other content. Right now, I kind of have to lay low because they're nuking people's channels, and don't want to have a slip of tongue and get deleted off of YouTube. So I'm just kind of like, just leave what I got up there for now. And when I get a studio like yours, I'll start my own Eagle's Nest podcast somewhere in a cool location.
Yeah. Yeah, can't wait to hear that one. I'm sure it's going to be amazing. Yeah, so I just, everyone has a story that brung them into this. What was the point when you started stumbling upon, the esoteric and the magic and all that stuff? Like, when did that all happen?
That's another great question, Drew. It really happened on the night of full moon, March 1993. And I climbed to the top of the Great Pyramid of Egypt. It's quite illegal to do it. Call it youthful indiscretion. You get a big ticket for trespassing. And I even got shouted down once. and I really wanted to do it super bad. So I knew that there's a trick of the eye, that when the human eye is exposed to really bright lights, that it's momentarily blinded for just 5-10 seconds. And so I'm walking around the perimeter of the Great Pyramid in 1993. This is at the very tail end of my 3-year trip. And it's on that stompers.com website story on the Egypt part. And so I got to the side facing Cairo, and I looked around. I didn't see any guards. They just thought I'd been dejected the one time and I was on my way out. And then right then, the Sound and Light show on the Giza Plateau started. And they lit up the Great Pyramid, super bright. Well, it was bright. And then, so I'm kind of just standing there looking around, knowing that when the light goes down, there's also a moment of blindness in the human eyes. And sure enough, no guards around, lights go down. I'm just like, go for it. And I just start scrambling up the blocks, and they're each about the size of an appliance, like a washing machine, right? Jumping up on your counter kitchen, and just doing it repetitive time. In that moment, still, when nobody could see quite clearly, here disappears this great big tall guy scrambling up the side of the Great Pyramid. And then the lights came on again when I was about a third of the way up. And so I just hid in a shadow. Just kind of doing that one thing. Lights came on again. I go, get about 2/3 of the way up. Lights came on again, hidden the shadow. And then lights came off again, made it all the way to the top. And it was a very momentous time in my life, because a lot of things happened to me in the 15 or 20 minutes or so I'd say I was up there. First of all, I saw a little mouse just come scrambling by. It must be picking up people's sandwich crumbs or something. I was really shocked to see that. And they have a big stick there on the top of the pyramid that's supported. And so I just started meditating and had some very life-changing experiences, I shall say, that put me in the direction that I'm in, to continue traveling, which I did do as a travel writer. After World Stompers came out, I did a couple other books and was doing a lot of magazine writing that was still plausible in the 90s, and establishing myself as a travel writer. Now, to get your question, how did I make that merge into esoteric subjects? Well, the Great Pyramid is a perfect example, because while I was absolutely fascinated with the structure, still am, read and consume any new information or all other alternative information about the pyramids, because there's certainly the story of the archaeologists really does not make sense in so many ways, with the monuments in Egypt, for starters. So that's what I based my Sacred Places series of books on, is kind of the alternative, but also why there are significant locations and travel directions that people could go there. And they're evergreen books, meaning they never go out of date. You'll always need the direction to get to some of these places. And being a traveler myself, I was able to provide that in those books, and they still do pretty well. They're still out there in print too. And so then when travel took basically a turn during the beginning of the internet age in year 2000, I don't know if you remember this, but the travel aisle at a Barnes and Noble, for example, not only one, but sometimes 2 or 3 aisles in some of the superstores, there would be hundreds of travel books. If you go to a travel aisle now in a Barnes and Noble, if it's a half an aisle deep, you'd be lucky. So basically what happened was, with the advent of the internet, guess what? You can go online and pretty much find any destination, any itinerary, any information you seek, and build your own itinerary. And so it started to crash the travel book market, which I was in. And I had an existential awakening one day. I was actually in the shower when the name esoteric came to me in the term that I use in the series of books. So the first name, Future Esoteric, which became the second book in the series, was not only all the information on sacred places like the Great Pyramid that I couldn't include, and that was more in modern esoteric book. All the earth science and the mysteries is in book 1 of the series. But then what I came to realize, Drew, was what I'm super interested in as a person, as a researcher, as a traveler, are going to these paranormal hotspots and these unexplained locations, these megalithic sites, and reinterpreting the alternative historical view of how they were made and what they're all about. And so that was about 15 years ago. I made a complete reversal and got into this esoteric information and pivoted now and get invited to speak at conferences and a whole bunch of other cool stuff pertaining to it.
Yeah, how crazy, it all worked out there. You could get on top of the pyramid. That's that's an insane story. That's an insane story, man. So dude, I'm guessing that you experienced something with Osiris at the top of the pyramid, or something ancient. Like what can you give us any tidbit of what you experienced on top of the pyramid? Like what was it, man? Like, we got to know.
Well, okay. Well, it wasn't anything to do with Egyptian gods. I mean, maybe it's egocentric for me to say it was just all about me and my life and a recent close relative who had passed while I was an English teacher in Japan. And that was my grandfather, and he was a very influential person in my life. And I wasn't able to make his funeral to go back to the Midwest in time. In fact, the day I found out that he had passed, the funeral was the next day. So it was like literally physically impossible for me to get back on that short notice. And so I was kind of carrying some guilt with me and even some shame that he was such an important figure in my life and I couldn't make it back for his funeral. And it was while meditating on the top of the Great Pyramid, I felt he came to me and he said, look at your life right now, man. Look where you're at. You're sitting on the top of the Great Pyramid, place where hardly anybody will ever have that experience. And I felt the same way when I was in Antarctica. But in this particular case, the message came to me, keep living your dream. And that's what I decided to do with book publishing and getting this information out to people. And he always said to me, his nickname was Pa, my grandfather, P.A. And he always said to me when I was a little kid, Brad, you got the gift of gab. You're so good at talking and telling people stories. And from the time I was a toddler, I'm telling you, you like said, you'd be so good in sales or being a lawyer because you got the gift of gab, Brad. And who knows, I'd be a public speaker, an author, and on interviews all the time. But hey, that's the gift of gab, I guess, is being a good communicator. And that's what I've always taken pride in being and trying to convey information in the most understood way. And that's what my readers say they come away with from my books, is that they're very easily digestible for the everyday person, even though I get into some pretty heady subjects. But my job as a communicator is to put that distilled into such a way that anybody can understand and read it.
Yeah, I need to get into them, man. I got so many books on the list to read. It's just, and I'm trying. I was told not to read any books until I got done writing my books, and I don't know if I'm gonna write any more books. I might write one more, maybe about how it is raising a child from a spiritual perspective, like, so because I have two older kids, 17, 19. I got 18-year-old, about to be an 18-year-old stepdaughter, and I got a 5-month-old. So
Wow.
definitely totally different perspective. I'm raising this one, from a very much more spiritual or energetic based. But
Right on.
so I want to stay in Egypt, or not Egypt, but I want to stay with the pyramids. I had Billy Carson on maybe a month or so ago. We were
Oh,
talking
cool.
about,
Yeah,
we were
Billy's
talking,
great. I'm going to see him this weekend in LA.
yeah, tell him I said hi, and
Yeah.
and make sure he reads my books I sent him. But anyways, we talked about how he believes there's two pyramids that are still activated, meaning they still have their gold cap. I don't know if you're on the same wavelength as all this, but he said that there's one in Antarctica and the other one's under the Bermuda Triangle. Do you, why? I guess my question is, why are all these pyramids spread out throughout the Earth? Were they energetic grid of one timeline, or were they remnants of different timelines? Do you believe?
Timelines. Not heard quite that theory formulated entirely. Maybe ask Billy about it. I think they're remnants of a high civilization that once existed on the earth, and I would agree that they are in two locations, perhaps even three, where the Hall of Records are, and in a crystalline form, which Edgar Casey described as being at the bottom of Bermuda Triangle area, off the Bahamas, the tongue of the ocean area, which some scuba divers have said they've seen this pyramid, which could be one of the Hall of Records. And that is also where the Atlantean fire crystals, which once energized the Atlantean civilization, also went to the bottom of the ocean. And that is what causes the Bermuda Triangle anomalies, because it's still firing. It's still operating in such a way that it can bend and warp and shape space and time. That's why you get planes and ships that go through there into missing time realms. In Antarctica, yep, there are 3 pyramid fields that I've identified. Not sure if I could say I know that any of those are active in the same way that the Bermuda Triangle one is. But the other presumed location of the Hall records are below the Great Pyramids in the Giza Plateau. Massive underground, many level underground facility, if you want to call it that, where is a receptacle of the Hall of Records, where J.J. Hurtak has told me personally he's been down there, and there are chambers that are so large you could put a Gothic cathedral in them, and that the Nile flows through on other areas, and it's just a whole other world down there. Quite a bit of great evidence that one of the chambers leading into it is the Sphinx itself, as well as the Temple of Birds, which Andrew Collins has gotten into and has taken for several miles. And that's located just outside or very near the edge of the Giza Plateau. So quite a bit of esoteric information about these locations. And this is what has always gained my interest in the subject.
So the pyramid fields in Antarctica, do they resemble or have any? Is it? Do they resemble the pyramids in Egypt? So is there 3 in a line? Do they have any connection to Orion? You know, anything like that? The pyramid fields in Antarctica.
Well, the one pyramid field that's often featured that you've probably seen pictures of, with a almost symmetrical 4-sided pyramid that casts a very triangular shadow. Ancient Aliens featured it, but they never went down there, which is kind of interesting. They're just going off of photo evidence. But you can zoom in on that one on Google Earth. It's in the Shackleton Range in West Antarctica. But I talked to a travel company that can do customized expeditions and showed them those pictures, as well as others of mine of other craft that could be presumed under the ice, just see what they'd think of them. And they dismissed the Shackleton Range pyramid as a nun attack, which means just an attractive mountain poking through the ice. Now, I haven't been down there and I haven't seen it, but it could be worth mounting an expedition to check it, because when I asked this travel company that flies over it, that calls it a nun attack, well, have you ever stopped there? Did you ever take a sample? Did you ever attempt to climb it? Did you ever put your hands on it or anyway? Nope, nobody has done that. So I'd say the jury's still out on that one, and that would probably be the best candidate for a pyramid that is intelligently designed and made, rather than just a nun attack being a mountain that's an attractive pyramid-shaped mountain poking through the ice.
So the chambers that you were speaking about in the Great Pyramid, those are those the same chambers, like the regeneration chambers that are being spoken about, or are those different or that's totally different chambers that you're speaking of, those large chambers?
Correct. So what I'm referring to with the Hall of Records and the different levels and the chambers that you could put a Gothic cathedral in are all below the Sphinx and the Great Pyramid. You may be referring to the chambers in the Great Pyramid, which one of them goes down to a subterranean chamber. But that was more likely part of what is another one of the great inventions of the Great Pyramid, is that it was used as a ram pump, which was when you let gravity flow down to the subterranean chamber, there is a valve that would go up. It's that one passageway that goes up towards the Queen's chamber. And in it is an up and down would have been operational when it was built. I think they've removed the old hinge that would go there, and that's basically what a ram pump was. So when the pressure of the water going down makes the air move, it's displaced by the water. It would go through the ram pump and open it up, and the water would follow through. It's a very ingenious way. It's kind of like Archimedes' screw that would also, just using gravity in a reverse kind of way, able to raise water up through the Grand Gallery then, and could have been a way that they could pump water up to the levels of the pyramid while they were building it. So construct the ram pump first, and then it would bring water up. If they were floating in these giant blocks on wooden rafts, they could do one at a time all the way around with a ramp of water going the whole way. It's quite amazing to think of. But that is a possible way that they were built. I think the leading engineer style, just using what we know about building, way of constructing the Great Pyramids. There are, I would also put it out there that there's also the possibility of technology that we have not yet come to know, and that is using auditive levitation, of rendering matter weightless and being able to move it effortlessly. And one episode of Ancient Aliens that I was on talked about auditive levitation at the location called Non Madal in Micronesia, where they have it's called the Venice of the Pacific, all these channels and these intelligently designed megalithic buildings that are still intact today, that the jury is still out how the heck they quarried those from another island across a water channel on Pana Bay to bring it to the Non Madal site. These giant basalt caused by a volcano, which are perfect hexagon long basalt logs of stone, and bringing them to the Non Madal site and creating this city much like Lincoln Logs that we used to play with when we were kids. So that's what I mean, Drew. There's so many mysteries in the world, right?
Yeah,
that have explained that deserve good alternative viewpoints how they could have been done.
Yeah, when Billy was on, he had some pictures and sharing, especially pictures of logs inside the Great Pyramid that he photographed himself. And there's no real census on where that would come from. Like, unless the landscape looked vastly different back when the pyramids were built, those logs had to come from a very, very, that wood had to come from a very, very long ways away.
Right.
It's fascinating to me. The other thing is the pictures depicting helicopters and advanced technology from that time, depicting pictures of things that we have now, like for instance the picture of the helicopter picture. I'm sure you're aware of that. Also, this ram pump system that they're directing water in. Is that above or below the limestone caverns that they have that they now believe that generate electricity underneath there?
Right. So then that's another piece of advanced technology that's really little understood. And that is not only the ram pump as a way to get water up against gravity, but also the way that pyramids naturally develop an energy funnel. So, for example, even this little pyramid I have over my shoulder is generating energy right through the top. And if you had the right kind of instruments, you could detect it. So pyramids, just by their natural shape that way, can be used to focus and funnel energy through the structure itself and up and out the top. And isn't it interesting that the King's Chamber is located right along that channel? And that's why they had a sarcophagus there, which I actually, another youthful indiscretion, laid in. Now they have cameras in there and a loudspeaker. Get out of there! Get out of there! Well, I got a
Oh
good
my God,
to try it out.
man! I know me stepping foot in the pyramids is part of my path, but man, I don't know what's gonna happen when like I channeled the viewers know, but I channeled Osiris spontaneously back in 2018, I think,
Oh
and
wow!
just recently found the phone that the recording was on. My wife ended up recording it, and just recently found the phone. My buddy has it right now. It's in the studio, and he's cleaning it all up and going to put subtitles to it and everything. I come to realize that what I channeled is the really closely related to the Emerald Tablets. So, and this is long before I even knew anything about the Emerald Tablets. So that's yeah, that recording, it's maybe it may be not released for a while, maybe part of this new project I'm working on. And but yeah, we're just we're put that on the back burner for a little bit, but that's my connection to Egypt. And it's really interesting that Egypt is such a pivot point in this ascension process. It seems like so many people um, have a Egypt's connection of some way, shape, or form. And why is that? You know, we touched on it a little bit, but why is that, Brad? Because is it because so we can remember what happened, or what is it? Are we leaving breadcrumbs for ourselves, or what?
Oh, what for ourselves again?
Are we leaving breadcrumbs for ourselves? Like
Ah, yeah.
why is Egypt such a prominent point in the ascension process?
Well, it's a very high civilization that was explained to me by my dad, who also has been very influential and lover of history, and always stressed how Egypt is really history in reverse, meaning they came to a very high apex of their civilization advancement at their earliest point. And that is evident in the Great Pyramid, the Sphinx, the Giza Plateau. And as I experienced on a horseback riding down to Saqqara, about 25 miles due south of Giza, passing by a whole bunch of inferior pyramids, many in the state of ruin and rubble, but off in the distance we could see the Ment Pyramid, and that one was not perfect either. And Saqqara is quite fascinating too, because underneath there you have these Apis bull sarcophagi that absolutely boggle the mind how they could have been quarried about 1,000 miles away, gotten underneath with these impossible angles to get them around corners to place them in some of these chambers with giant lids and weighing many dozens of tons and being perfectly carved out of granite rock, which is the hardest rock of all. So there was a very high civilization that existed in Egypt, and over time it descended. The descent of history to the point where, obviously, in the end, it crumbled and was conquered by other civilizations, most notably at the end, the Romans. But every civilization from the Greeks, and Herodotus, the historian of ancient Greek, went down there and went through the mystery schools. And I do offer quotes in my Esoteric series of books of the absolute fascination with Egypt in Western civilization, which has been very fundamental to our own history in Western Europe than over here to America. You still see the Great Pyramid on the back of the $1 bill. So it was the cedar civilization, meaning that was the very first civilization that, according to Edgar Casey, was the survivors of Atlantis, took their know-how, knowledge, and supplanted it into the Osirian Empire. There's Osiris again. Was the earliest civilization in our known history, because, of course, in talking about Atlantis or Lemuria or past high civilization on this planet is pseudo history to other historians. Yet here are all these ruins around the world that still defy explanation. Some of them are even underwater. Now, try to explain how Yonaguni off Okinawa Islands is a massive stone carved site of a whole bluff on a rock face. How that could have been done underwater. It can't. It had to have been above water during the last ice age. So there is civilization that can be found underneath the waves, let alone all the massive megalithic constructions from South America to Central America to Asia to Egypt and literally everywhere around the world. So much of this has just been kept out of our standard history books that it really has given me, great opportunity to talk about and articulate all the mysteries and why haven't we had a good solution through the archaeologists who make it their career to study this stuff. But then you get into Smithsonian Gate, which is a concerted effort to destroy the historical record, largely about how they handled finding all the giants in this continent. And because we didn't have stones like the Egyptians and other cultures to create megalithic structures, they used earth and did the earthen mounds throughout the whole Mississippian Valley and up in Ohio and Illinois. And Cahokia is the Cahokia Mounds outside of St. Louis on the Illinois side, has a larger base area on Monk's Mound than the Great Pyramid. And they found that there's a chamber in the bottom that still hasn't been discovered. Or if they did discover it, they're not talking about it because they probably found giants wearing a suit of armor. So these are what's known as out-of-place artifacts, or UPAs. And they're all over the place. And once again,
it's amazing.
History just makes no damn sense.
Two things. One, and this theory popped in my head when I was talking to Billy. It's just epiphany come to me that Osiris, Jesus was all source. Like they were it was all like basically a reliving of the same message. We now know that it's coming out that Jesus went and went to the Great Pyramids, got activated. He actually spent time there. It's starting to come out as common knowledge. Where so have you heard anything about that? Do you know, are you on that understanding that Jesus went and got activated in Egypt?
Oh yeah. Oh, definitely.
So one thing that I've seen in my spiritual work, I'm a sun dancer, pipe carrier, work with sacred medicine, had plenty of spontaneous spiritual experiences. I know that when I go to a certain point, sometimes, I went to Chaco Canyon, had an experience, things like that. I know that part of our lives, like, are in these pasts that go back and we revisit things and to bring back memories. It really struck me as truth that Osiris and Jesus are the same soul group or soul space. What's your feelings on that?
Right. Well, Jesus was one of some of the ascended masters who walked the world. I have a book called The Parallel Teachings Between Buddha and Jesus. And Drew, you'd be absolutely amazed how they really spoke about the same thing in different ways, different parables that also made perfect sense. Just remember, the strongest weapon in the world is truth, because truth is indestructible. And sacred teachings like Jesus or Buddha and others have spoke of are ours through time. So he was an ascended master. He walked this earth, unfortunately had a terrible fate at the end. But as we can see, that was tied into the whole cult that got created around it, which I think he would be, in my opinion, be kind of upset that it went that way, that they glorified his horrible.
I truly believe it, man, because, you know, I had a similar message when I was told to share my message. One thing I was told, do not become a deity, because the whole thing is trying to bring everybody into an evolutionary process. If you become a deity, you're circumventing it. So I'm sure that he had some type of the same thing going on when he was sending his. But the connection between Isis, Osiris, Jesus, and Mary Magdalene, that's what really opened my eyes up to one message and really separating from the individual names on the message. And that's what helped me really crack my own code. But I wanted to mention, before we escape from giants, I spent some time with Bobby C. Billy. He was a spiritual leader for the Miccosukee Seminole tribe down in Florida. I spent 3 months down there. I walked to Miami with him. It was like over 55 miles. And we started sharing, he started sharing just some profoundly amazing things with me one time. One, he shared 8 generations ago was a story passed down from his elders. 8 generations before his generation, trees there were trees on this planet that went all the way up past the clouds, and that there were people there were times 8 generations ago there were people that lived simultaneously with giants, like what we would consider giants right now. So when people talk about giants as a funny thing, they haven't spent time with Native American medicine men and had deep conversations with them before, or anything like that. That's just something that really struck out to me. I wanted to throw that in there real quick. What so what do you know about giants? What cultures talk about them, and what have you heard about
God, where do
that
you want
time?
to start? Pick a part of the world, and there's probably good stories about giants.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're all
Yeah,
over the
it's
place.
I had another theory I wanted to share with you and see you're one of them guys I can share my wild theories with and see your thoughts on. I believe, everything's manifestation, and it's manifested from our minds and all this, in a way. Do you think that when that the dinosaurs that we think about now are used to be dragons, but when we put dragons into more fairy tale sense, like the whole storyline morphed into more dinosaur? Do you think that dinosaurs and dragons have any connection?
Yeah, you could be onto something there. Um, so basically, what you're saying is, could some species survived into the modern age in a way, or uh, be leftovers?
I no, I think that what I'm saying is I think they're one and the same. One's a fairy tale, one's considered history, but I think they're one and the same. I think
Gotcha.
I think the dragons are we're talking about, like, maybe, yeah, maybe dinosaurs lived in much longer than we originally thought. Maybe, we're finding out new history all the time. Maybe we're about to find out that the timeline is shifting on when we consider dinosaurs actually being or alive.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. That's certainly intriguing possibility, and in future esoteric book, the second in the series, I do a chapter on cryptozoology, and there's quite a bit of amazing evidence that some of these dinosaur creatures could have survived to this modern age, such as the Loch Ness monster, which is really a plesiosaur. It is a dinosaur. It's known. Maybe there's a mating pod of plesiosaurs that have some kind of entrance to the ocean, because they were ocean dinosaurs swimming. Maybe that's one proposal, is that they have a way to go in and out. That's why you don't see them all the time, that they'll just occasionally pop up there, maybe to go feed and then go back through underwater passage to go back out to the open ocean. As I said,
Maybe they're
on an ocean planet, so I mean that's probably the most plausible. But then, as you said, all the Saint George slaying the dragon and so much mythology surrounding the dragon. And of course, in China too, dragon features very prominently. So maybe there were some that lived through the ages and were experiencing.
You got to think about it, man. Like there's so many stories about it, and they're all put in this fairy tale, fiction sense when people talk about them. When there's so many accounts of them that's coming from all over the world. Like how are they all, having a hallucination or whatever you want to consider it, not being real? Like there has to be some level of realness to it. And my guess is maybe it's really literal. Maybe it's exactly literal, exactly how it did happen. Who knows? But man, what we're going through right now. Another interesting point that you just brought up again that I should point out, that's kind of obvious for everybody. The Earth, it talks about this in the Emerald Tablets as well. We need to look at the Earth as a being to really understand what's going on at this moment. And if we look at the Earth and look how much we're water, like there's so many messages that come through that tell us that we're so closely related to the Earth, a lot more closely related than what we think. And it is a living, breathing being that has a consciousness just like we do. We need to understand that to move forward as a people. As far as cryptids, I want to know: have you heard anything about thunderbirds?
Sure.
Native American thunderbirds.
That's another good example. I have a photo that I reproduced in Future Esoteric. That is a photo from Tombstone, Arizona, which even made it into their newspaper at the time from about 1890. And it's about 8 or 9 guys holding this thing up, a pterodactyl with a great big head and beak. And to be in an old time photo like that, well, I think the proof is that it got republished in the Tombstone newspaper. So there's actually a record of it from the late 19th century. And then this photo survived, and it's just amazing. Was it, again, it must have been some kind of breeding colony that had survived. And the Thunderbird was renowned throughout the Southwest. So the sightings of seeing this thing could have certainly inspired fear in those that saw it, because apparently they could pick up like a small person. So a squaw woman or a child were being plucked off the landscape by these things. And that would also be pretty parallel with what a pterodactyl could have done to a human. Another great one, and this is the giants, is the Kandahar giant. You ever heard of that one, Drew?
I haven't.
Kandahar, Afghanistan. So our guys, of course, were in Afghanistan for 20 some years, but early on, they were asked in the Kandahar region, a remote area, if they would go up and take a look and kill a giant that the villagers knew about for quite a long time. And so our guys went up there to a cave, and they were able to confront the Kandahar giants. And I have a bit about it in my Beyond Esoteric book. So they get up to the this cave, and basically this thing comes out with a giant lance, and it's about 12 feet tall. Very human-like, but of course, being that big, not quite human. And it got one of our guys with the lance and speared him all the way through. Obviously, the guy died. And so our military force just opened fire on this guy, and they aimed for its eyes. And it didn't go down that easy. But eventually they got enough shots in through the head, and they killed it. And then they netted it up, and it went to the Kandahar Air Base, and more witnesses saw it there. And then eventually it went to Wright-Patterson in Ohio, which is really interesting because Wright-Patterson is where they said all the aliens that came off of the crashed
Roswell.
UFOs from the 1940s on always went to Wright-Patterson. And another little funny little aside with Wright-Patterson was, remember Jackie Gleason, who was in the Honeymooners?
Uh-huh.
He had an absolute fascination with aliens, and he heard that they were being stored at Wright-Patterson, and he asked a personal favor of Richard Nixon to take him down there to see it, and he did. And
Wow.
Jackie Gleason had his mind blown. And then that was kind of like another deathbed confession that he would talk about it, being able to see the aliens and Wright-Pat. So that's what I mean, man. When you merge the paranormal hotspots, crypto, giants, ancient history, removed history, megaliths, all the good stuff here, Drew, it all ties back to a very old timeline. Okay, so what we've been sold as being only 10,000 years old, 12,000 years old from Mesopotamia, that's where history starts. Bollocks.
Yeah,
We're talking hundreds of thousands, if not millions of years of history and high technology and megaliths and giants that once walked the earth as described in Genesis and the Bible of taking place here on this planet. And this is the storied history, the untold history that has really been swept under the rug and into the closet. And I just spoke at a conference up at Mount Shasta with Michael Cremo, who does all the forbidden archaeology stuff. And so really great. I mean, when I speak at conferences, you'll find me in just about every talk. I'm taking notes sometimes too. I'm just blown away with some of these legendary speakers that I've had the great honor and privilege of being able to hear their presentations and sometimes getting to know them and becoming personal friends with.
So, yeah. So I'm sure you visit a lot of petroglyph sites here in the U.S. Have you stumbled across the Blythe, California site?
Oh yeah, big time.
There's like 30 something different.
Yeah, we're texting each other. I was asking you if you knew where the spider was in Arizona, right?
Yeah. I think that's to the left. I think that so the main one where they have the 114-foot man or whatever like that.
Yeah.
And they had the three main ones that they show everybody.
Right.
I think if you go to the left, there's a road that goes in, and those main ones are to the right. I think if you go way to the left, I think they're out in that field. I haven't seen them personally. I want to go back there and explore. I'm a petroglyph fanatic. I'm addicted to them. One thing I recognize in every petroglyph site, other than the Blythe one, the Blythe one is not actually a petroglyph site, but I've been to about 6 different sites. Yeah,
geoglyph, like Nazca. Yeah.
Explain for the audience that might not know what are out there, like who are we communicating with these geoglyphs?
Right. Well, okay, glyph just means drawing or doodle or design or geometric shape. Geo being of the earth, of a very large scale, whereas petroglyph is petro being chipped into the wall or pictograph painted on the wall. But geoglyph, so it's etchings on the earth. So places that are very, very dry, and you're describing Blythe, California, right along the Colorado River, just a dozen or so miles before it moves into Mexico, is very, very dry and hot desert, very similar to the Nazca Plains of Peru, a high desert area that is, the rain is wind blocked by the Andes. So these stones create a patina from being on the surface for so long and just being sunbaked, so that when people come along and scrape the patina and move these rocks around, then they can create these giant geoglyph patterns, right? And some of them, like down in Nazca, are really old. And this is what gave Eric von Daniken, who wrote Chariot of the Gods, his best-selling book, which influenced Giorgio Tsoukalos, who then pitched Ancient Aliens to Prometheus Entertainment, because he knew Giorgio and Eric knew each other from Switzerland. And so Giorgio was able to parlay that relationship, as well as with David Hatcher Childress, and to a very much lesser degree myself. But I was driving the car down in LA about 15 years ago, and before Giorgio was famous, anybody knew who he was. And it was on David Hatcher Childress's birthday. He's a publisher like me, so we were down there for the book expo, and his wife Jen was along, and I rented a convertible, drove it down from the Bay Area, and David said, "Hey, mind if we pick up our friend Giorgio?" And we all went out to see the Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull movie. It was just debuting, so it was right at that time. And then went out to dinner with David, and I was in the car when Giorgio was pitching to David this whole new TV series that they were going to launch called Ancient Aliens. And sure enough,
still cracking.
Still cranking. Yep. They were all just out in the some Midwestern small cities like Toledo, Ohio, and I think Milwaukee and Columbus. And they were filling up the big theaters, including all the balcony levels above, packed with people that would just want to hear them on a panel talking about different things for Ancient Aliens. I'm sure they're going to make some episodes out of it.
Yeah, I'm sure. That's crazy you mentioned Toledo, Ohio. I was born and raised in Bowling Green, Ohio, so it's about 40 miles south of Toledo.
Oh, wow.
That's where I was born at, and yeah, my mom still lives in Toledo. Well, a lot of my family lives in Toledo. Little Detroit.
Little Detroit. Which isn't saying much, but hey.
Yeah. So for some of the audience that might not know, what improved the Nazca lines that you're talking about and the geoglyphs in Blythe, can you describe them a little bit for the audience that might not know?
Sure. And I've been out to Blythe. I went out there when I was doing my book, Sacred Places North America. And of course, I feature that in that book, and in Sacred Places Around the World, the Nazca line. And I was down in Peru the same time I was going to Antarctica 3.5 years ago, going to all the megaliths and in that area. So the geoglyphs really can only be seen and appreciated and understood when viewed from above, right? Because some of them are so big, especially the ones in Nazca, that you just see a line going way off into the distance. So it wasn't until people could fly over them, and they're a fairly recent discovery, only about 100 years ago, could somebody get up above them and start saying, hey, these things are massive. So then Eric von Daniken, he ran with that, and he got the imagery of them. And some of them do look like 2, 3, 4 mile landing strips, because they're perfect rectangles that just go on and on and on. And that was
that's the Nazca lines.
Correct.
That's a landing strip, and that's definitely not the first person that's shared that theory for sure. So just want to clear everyone up and make sure they know that that's the site in Peru. Correct.
Because in Blythe, I'm not sure they have any rectangular or landing strip type geoglyphs. They're all horses, what appear to be horses, which is pretty interesting, because horses were introduced by the Spanish only about 400 years ago. There were no horses in North America. They originally come from the Mongolian steppes region, and it was and then eventually made their way to Europe and were bred there. And then the Spanish brought them over in their ships for the very express reason of riding them and bringing them up. And as soon as the Native Americans were introduced to the horses, they became master riders in a very short period of time, because the Indians had such a way with animals. I mean, they were pretty much subservient to the buffalo and the moving of the herd and following around all summer. And they used to have to sneak up to them wearing a hide of buffalo and then get close enough to land a spear into them. But then when they were able to domesticate their horses themselves, they became in the top 3 horse riders in the world, even superior to the Spanish who brought them in. And then, of course, they could hunt buffalo much more efficiently. But it was because the Native Americans have such incredible affinity with all living things and all living animals that they just really adapted with the horses very well, and it became like their appendage when they would get on a horse. I remember learning about this in history in high school, about all these really cool factoids about the Indians and their sacred places. Only the Mongolians and one other group of people were equal to horsemanship like the Native Americans were. They're in the top 3 best horse riders in history. But of course, you can't compete with the steam engine and guns, Germs, and Steel, that great book by Jared Diamond. If you've ever read it.
Steel.
Yeah, that's what's called, Guns, Germs, and Steel. And that laid it out. That's how the very small in number Europeans could go on in the age of discovery and exploration and then conquest, how they could take over the world, and how someone like Pizarro, the Spaniard, with a few dozen men, conquered Peru with tens of thousands of men. How do you do that? How does an army do that? Well, guns, germs, and steel is how they did it, and how they conquered people everywhere else around the world.
It's interesting. I'm a veteran. Never went to Afghanistan, but definitely Iraq. And I've been to the Temple of Babylon. It's very interesting that we were in war in 2 different countries that hold such very old historic sites of existence. What do you think that
go to Uruk or Ur or ancient Babylon? I know Saddam was restoring a lot of those ziggurats, and Jacob's them.
I was to the Temple of Babylon in 2005, and
Cool.
it was still protected. Like, it was not only by, it was protected by, I don't even know who. I mean, there was people protecting it. So it was like, it's interesting, like everything that was going on in Iraq, and you go to this area and it's a very secure area. It's very peaceful area that people held reverence in, at least when I was there. Why do you think the connection is to that? Do you think, I guess what I'm getting to, do you think that the government has known about this ascension process for a long time? Do you think they've been trying to hold on? Because I feel like this ascension process, they're losing
what it's
control.
all about, man. It's the protection of knowledge. It's the narrative. How much they're going to let us know, which is very little. They would prefer a very ignorant, controllable, sheeple mass out there. They do not want thinkers. And it was Rockefeller himself, the first billionaire, John D. Rockefeller, when he was funding all the universities, he came out and says, "I don't want a country of thinkers. I need a country of workers who will labor in his factories." And this is the kind of indignity that these elite have had for us. I think they even mock us for being ignorant and not knowing our history. And there are a lot of quotes of people saying that if you don't know your history, you don't even know who you are. And that's been kept from us.
This has been something I've been speaking about for a little while, like the understanding that they've been mining our manifestation energy to make their
right
reality, and it starts from the beginning. I pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, blah blah blah. You
Right.
know,
Pledge yourself right to the corporation right away.
every time you do that, you're just hooking yourself up to and letting them feed off your energy, you know. And it's just so it's so blatant and out there. And here I got I talk about all the time. I got American flag on my arm, and after my spiritual awakening, understanding, you know, why I got that flag on my arm to remind myself of the indoctrination that's there, you know, and to speak about it and let people know that, you know, they've been mining our manifestation energy for a long time, and they funnel what they talk about and how they depict the perfect person being. They funnel people into the military industrial complex, which is basically a money washing system for uh, you know, black sites, black programs, secret programs that we know now, that now it's just now coming out that these things have been in place for so long. MK Ultra and all these different things where they've really been messing with consciousness for so long. What really pisses me off, Brad, is there's so many people died and suffered when they didn't have to. When the technology and the process for true healing has always been there and been known, but it's been used for greed for so long. And you know, I think this COVID. Oh man, I said it. Okay, I think this situation that we've been going on here over the past couple of years, I think this was a last ditch effort for them to keep control, but it kind of backfired because it unknowingly you know, end up waking a lot of people up that was asleep, you know, from the truth. What's your thoughts on what's going on right now? Do you think, and what's the timeline on events? Do you think, man, this is a loaded question, man. So unpack it however you want to. But I think that we're at the beginning of another stage of a great flood. I think it's happening in Yellowstone. Yellowstone's closed down.
All
There's
that. It's
there's
incredible.
all, there's all types of floods everywhere. I think the only way to experience a great flood is a magnet shift of the planet, uh, a magnet field shift of the planet. What's your thoughts on all this? Do you see anything happening like that? Like,
Yeah, I definitely see great changes around the world. How can you not? It's happening all the time. Uh, these superstorms, and they're getting more ferocious, and more hurricanes hit the Caribbean and Eastern Seaboard last summer and last season than ever before. But I think it's more to do with geoengineering and the controlling of weather systems. And in my book, Beyond Esoteric, Drew, you got to read this. I'm telling you, man.
I
Do
got
yourself a big favor. This is pure data. There's a
I
whole
gotta
chapter
get
on
it.
geoengineering, and it's quite clear that our weather is being controlled. In fact, there is a document that came out by the armed forces in 1996 called Weather as a Force Multiplier, Owning the Weather in 2025. Here, I'll put it in the chat room here because I think people absolutely need to see this. Can I put that in there? Maybe not. I wish I could. Anyways, geoengineering is controlling the weather, and oh, they don't tell us, do they? There you go. Once again, withholding vital and important information that people absolutely need to know and have a right to know. Okay, and this is what gets me a little bit upset. I'm normally a very mild-mannered guy and smile a lot, but I don't like the fact that we have been hoodwinked on something so vitally important as the weather of this planet. Because look, none of these hurricanes had to hit the eastern seaboard of the Caribbean area. None of these superstorms needed to be taking place, but they are, and they're only going to get more severe. Oh, how about little Greta? Shame on you for not giving me the future and polluting. Well, look, This is the world they made us live in. You think I want to drive a gas car? No, I want it to be electric from the get-go. Hey, little Greta, how come you never bring up geoengineering? Okay, how come you don't talk about the hundreds of patents that describe exactly what's going on? How about the chemtrails, little Greta? You ever see those in the sky? Why don't you shame on them, right? She's a controlled little puppet. You see George Soros patting her on the head. So, yeah, I do get a little bit upset about this because we have just been hoodwinked over what's really going on with the natural systems of this planet. And it's so wrong on so many levels.
What that girl's talking about is just so on the surface and really not getting down to the brass tacks of everything that's going on. Like it's it just amazes me. Like I was at the dispensary about a week ago, buying some weed. It's legal here in Colorado. It's just like going to the store. It's an awesome place to live. But anyways, I was talking to the guy behind the counter. I was like, "Man, you hear about the UFO hearing the other day?" He's like, "What? He's like, "UFO." I was like, "Yeah, Congress was talking about the UFOs and everything that they've been watching." And I showed him the video, and just his mind was blown. Even what gets me is even when the government is putting out in prime time like this, okay, here's what it is, like this has been going on, and give us a little taste of the truth with the UFO hearing, but a mass amount of the general public is not receiving the information. Even still, it's
Funny that.
it's that how algorithms work, and definitely since starting my own website and podcast and everything, the website's a couple years old, and definitely learning a lot about algorithms and what works and what catches people attention and everything. It's such a game, man. And that, just getting back to what really pisses me off, like I just had Kevin Day on Sunday, and he was on the Princeton when the famous Tic Tac incident happened and everything. And that happened in 2004. And he went through so much ridicule, so much being, just ridicule in the military. And I can understand it from being in the military of that fraternity and how it would react to anyone saying anything about UFO or on the fringe. But there's thank God that Kevin's still with us. But there has been a lot of people that has took their own lives and lost relationships and lost marriages and lost relationship with family and friends and been ridiculed and ostracized for so many years. When it's coming out now, it was truth all along. And that's what's really that's what we really should need to look at as a people, a country, a world, man. Like really,
Hey,
because
Drew, you know
there's
what? You know the difference between the truth and 6 months? What do they have in common? Or I blew it.
Go ahead, try it again. It's live.
What do the conspiracy theories in 6 months have in common? The truth. Yeah, I mean, it's all coming out, man. I don't have any more good conspiracy theories anymore because they all come true. So
it's all the truth.
Man, so much has been withheld. Look, I've got over 1,200 pages of original content. I don't repeat myself in 3 books. There's so much that needs to be told to the people that how absolutely withheld the most important information we need to know is not given to us. Look at school is indoctrination. School is what they want us to know. Yeah, they want us to know and be good workers, like John D. Rockefeller said.
Well, they're conditioning us from an early age to a 5-day work week. Look forward to the weekend. Have to go back to work on Monday. Have to go back at school. Same thing. So when we get out of that system, we haven't learned anything but how to feed the system. That's it. And that's so we're used to the 5-day thing. I was talking about with a friend a while back how certain parts of the country are just behind, and how there's mainly not speaking bad about my friends and family in the South, but people in the deep South, they pray for Saturday and Sunday. Like that is their salvation. Saturday is to unwind and Sunday is to go to church, and then you go back to work just like a good American. And if you don't, you're not American. You're not part of the. You're not right. And it's just how it is. I'm just so glad I see it changing. Man, what? Let's go. We got 15 minutes left. What's coming up for Brad? I know you got Disclosure Fest. If you want to give a little hint on what you're going to be talking about, Disclosure Fest, and that's in LA this weekend, right?
Yeah, that's right. It's
Okay.
at the Los Angeles Historic Park, which is kind of across the dry river from Dodger Stadium. So pretty close to downtown, and it's a full day. I'm speaking from 1 to 2 before the mass meditation at 2 to 2:30. And then it goes till 10 o'clock, and there's DJs and live musicians and 2 stages with speakers. So really, really honored to have been asked to come down there. And then, so just today, I got asked to be on the Truth Tour, which debuts in Thousand Oak, California, in Southern California, 6 days later. So I'm just going to stick around SoCal for a week and see some friends, do some cool stuff. My little secret project, which I'll have to come on and tell you about later.
Yeah. Gotta have you back. I can't wait to hear about it, man. I know if Brad's excited about it, it's got to be something pretty crazy. So,
and so then coming back just shortly, and then heading up to Mount Shasta second week of July for the Mount Shasta Summer Conference. That's a 4-day event putting on, and then afterwards going to do a little traveling with some friends and maybe even go up on the mountain with Lowell Johnston and see if we can't get into Telos and say hi to the Ascended Masters there. But maybe since I just said it, I blew it. They don't want to get out there. But anyways, would be kind of cool to be up on the mountain, go explore some lava tubes and other cool stuff all around. And then let's see, going out to Boulder, Colorado for Gaia-Sphere Conference in September, another conference in Shasta in September, and then another conference in Orlando, Florida in October. So I'm looking forward to all of these and getting out traveling. I love to meet people and hear your stories too. So come and find me at my book table and signing copies for people, and come and hear my talks. It'd be great. And always a whole bunch of interviews in between too. So really great coming on here with you today, Drew, and hearing your perspective and having a great conversation about a lot of different subjects. Hope
yeah, we got to have you back on soon, man. As soon as you're ready to let this out, man, I got to hear about the secret project. So got to hear about it, man. Looking forward to it. So glad, so honored to have you on. Thanks for joining me on the Eagles Nest podcast. Thanks for sharing your heart, your time, and good luck on everything you're doing. If you're in LA, go check him out at Disclosure Fest this weekend, guys. He's going to be speaking. Jimmy Church is going to be there. Billy Carson, Laura Eisenhower. A bunch of my friends is going to be there. I wish I could make it. But yeah, go check him out. And I'm sure whatever he's going to be talking about this weekend is going to blow your mind. I know he's been on the beach writing his notes. So yeah, it's gonna be pretty amazing, whatever it is. Appreciate it, brother, and we got to have you back on soon.
Oh yeah, you bet, Drew, and we'll catch up on Facebook. I hope I don't let you down on my secret project. It's not that profound. If I find out anything, that could be good. But I'm just going out there probing a little bit.
Well, we'll see. We'll see whatever happens. But thank you for all you're doing, man. Being part of this community, I've been following you in the background and just watching everything you're doing. And man, you're just on fire lately, man. Just keep your foot on the pedal.
All right. Thanks so much, man. And yeah, we'll definitely be in touch.
All right. Talk to you soon.
You bet.
All right, everybody. That's Another episode of the Eagle's Nest podcast with myself, Drew Banky, filming right here in the San Luis Valley in southern Colorado, just south of Mount Blanca, just south of the Great Sand Dunes. Let's see here. Let me check. Yeah, so check us out. If you haven't liked the video, if you're over on Facebook, if you're looking on the lives, go over and like our page over on YouTube at Eagles Nest Podcast with Drew Banky. And yeah, like us on there. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. We're just over 260 before I started the show tonight. So yeah, we're just trying to get as many followers as we can. Got a lot of projects coming up for myself here in the coming months. Got a private retreat coming up with a couple that's coming not this weekend but next weekend. Got Stardust Fest July 10th. I'll be speaking at 11 a.m. I just confirmed that today. And yeah, that's going to be in Golden, Colorado. So if you're around the Golden, Colorado area or Colorado area in July, stop by the Stardust Fest. It's a one-day event, and I'll be speaking at 11 a.m. And I'll be speaking at 11 to noon. And also, we're going to be filming a episode live from the Stardust Fest, and we're going to be streaming live here on the Eagles Nest Podcast YouTube channel, and probably also on Facebook and everything. I think I'm going to be doing the Facebooks and just trying to get as much platforms as possible out there. And yeah, come check me out. The MUFON Symposium's coming up in Denver, starting July 8th, and we're going to have Sev Talk, which is the person that's the MC that is looking over that conference, the MUFON Symposium. She's going to be with us the Sunday after next. The next guest I have up is a surprise guest. It was going to be Ruben Langdon, but just got word a few hours ago that Ruben has just got off a long road trip, interviewing a lot of people for his show, and he has to do a lot of editing and work, so he has to push our interview back for a few weeks to let him catch up on everything he's got going on. But yeah, so we have. Let me just check the comment section. Trev and Madeline. What about Jekyll Island, Georgia, Rockefeller? Yeah, there's a lot of sacred sites out there, Madeline, that's for sure. But thanks for everybody for joining the chat room and making Eagles Nest what it is. And thanks for helping it grow. Tell your friends about it. We got, I always try to get some really high caliber guests in here and really sharing information that you might not heard before. So share it with your friends and family. Tell them to go over and check out my podcast over at Eagles Nest Podcast, a YouTube channel, and check it out and give us a like, share, subscribe. Hit that bell button so you get notifications on upcoming shows. I got another special interview next Wednesday, which is going to be Debs Shakti. She's a quantum hypnotherapist. She is also featured in a recent documentary that has been released on Amazon, which is called Alien Abduction Answers. So if you got Amazon Prime, go over and got some free time tonight looking for something to do, go over and check it out. It's a few bucks to rent it and to watch it. But she's going to be on next Wednesday, and she's going to talk about her experience in hypnotherapy and her experience in the movie. She's featured on there with Whitley Strieber. So go over and check it out. It's called Alien Abduction Answers. It's on Amazon Prime. Go and check it out. She's going to be on next Wednesday, and again, that's Deb Shakti. If you're listening, Deb, much love to you, sister. Can't wait to have you on. Can't wait to pick your brain and see what it was like with the documentary and your work and everything. Just can't wait to get into who you are. We got Micah Danks coming up. He's going to be talking about astrology, and let's see, Charles Pate. He's going to be coming up. He's going to be speaking about his ketamine treatment facility in Florida, what he's doing to help people release from trauma and heal through ketamine infusion treatments at his place in Florida. Yeah, I promise you, we will get Ruben on. That is going to be a great conversation. His connection to ayahuasca is something I'm looking forward to delving into. Can't wait to talk more about that. But go check out my brother Brad's stuff. Brad Olsen, Beyond Esoteric. Let's see. I'll throw up his website one more time. Here's bradolsen.com. Pretty self-explanatory, but you can go there and get connected to anything that you need to find from everything that he's doing. He's a busy man, especially here over the past couple of years. He's been really busy, so go over and support him. He's doing tons of work. Man's got a great heart, and yeah, just trying to get the truth out there. And he's doing a fabulous job. So shout out to him. Thanks for him coming on. Want to say shout out to Kevin Day from last weekend. From this last Sunday that was on. Dave Scott was come on before. True Seeker from True Seekers podcast. Jess Rogie. Laura Eisenhower, Grant Cameron. If you haven't checked out, if this is your first time listening to Eagles Nest podcast, do yourself a favor, go and check out our past videos of Eagles Nest podcast. We have an amazing lineup of past guests. This was our 12th episode of Eagles Nest podcast. So there's 11 other guests to add on to Brad that just one right after another, week after week. Some amazing conversations. Just to name a few, Joel Lambert, Navy SEAL that healed through Iboga, ayahuasca. He come on and shared his story maybe about 2 months ago. Billy Carson, man, that was a banger episode. If you missed that one, go back and check that out. But yeah, shout out to everybody that's going through awakening right now and going through imbalance of seeing things or dreams or whatever it may be. Just know you're not alone, and tune in here every Sunday. And yeah, who knows when I'm going to have a pop-up interview now. I mean, it's the demand for people coming on the podcast is just growing so much. And yeah, I'm just having people on whenever I can have them on, and I'm working around people's schedules to have them on. So yeah, be looking out for pop-up interviews. And you may only have a day or two or a couple hours notice before they pop up, but I will get them posted out there and do my best to try to promote them and let you know that when they're coming out and when to check them out. Where am I going to be at coming up? Let's see, November 18th starts Zen Awakening Festival in Florida near Orlando. Going to be there. Just confirmed that with the organizer Nico today. So definitely going to be there. Come check us out. We're going to be speaking. We're going to have a booth there. Have some booth T-shirts, and yeah, just come hang out with us. Zen Awakening is a spot that we always love to visit. So can't wait to go back and check out Florida for a little bit. And November sounds like a great time to go visit. So come check us out. Zen Awakening Festival, guys. November, Orlando. It's a well-known festival. Look it up. It's you can Google it. Again, that's Zen Awakening Festival in Orlando, Florida, coming up in November. Going to be speaking there. If you want to come out and see me or Ella and come out and say hi, or have some books some of my books that need signed, come out and find me at the festival. I will sign them on the spot and have a great conversation with you if I have time and everything. Looking forward to connecting with everyone, with some of you face to face. And yeah, there's other projects in the works that I can't talk about, but it's exciting. It's a lot of stuff coming up. So just know that there's a lot of stuff going in the background, and it's got some exciting stuff coming up. So thank you all for joining me on this special Wednesday edition of the Eagle's Nest podcast. And yeah, once again, thank you, Brad Olsen, for joining us, and we're gonna have him on again soon. So and just dig more into more mysteries and more esoteric stuff. So shout out to everybody, and yeah, look up at the stars tonight. Peace.